The movie begins with Hannah having dinner with her parents. During their conversation, she suddenly gets anxious and starts scratching at her nails. At the same time, she feels a strange sensation in her stomach, as if something is trying to come out. But after rubbing her belly, everything returns to normal and she continues with her dinner. In the following scene, we see Hannah in her apartment with her boyfriend Kalen, who spent the night, and they appear to be deeply in love. The following day, she wakes up to find him making breakfast, but before she can appreciate his efforts, she again feels something moving in her stomach. A quick glance shows us a birthmark in the same spot. Shortly after, she receives a text from her boss, so she ignores the pain and heads to work without eating anything. Arriving at work, Hannah greets her best friend Esther, and we see that they have matching tattoos. It turns out that they're fashion designers and work for a man named Christian, who is extremely successful in the industry. However, he's also very toxic, often pushing his employees to the brink. When he sees Hannah's new designs, he insults her and accuses her of stealing other people's ideas. This upsets her so much that the pain in her stomach returns. But she pushes through and decides not to take a sick leave. A little while later, Esther invites her to a party that night, but she declines since she has to meet Kalen. During their conversation, it's revealed that Kalen and Esther are very close friends, and she was the one who introduced him to Hannah. That evening, while Hannah and Kalen are hanging out, he opens up about his late mother and shares how much he misses her. This makes him emotional, so she comforts him. One thing leads to another, and the two start making out. But in the midst of it, Hannah once again feels the movement in her stomach, prompting her to stop. Kalen is confused and asks if he did something wrong, but she insists it's just work and heads out. After this, Hannah returns home and starts working on her new designs. However, she gets frustrated when she's unable to come up with anything good. Again, she feels the movement in her stomach, and the pain is unbearable. When she looks at the birthmark, she shockingly finds something coming out of it. A few seconds later, a grotesque creature pops out and begins mocking her. It tells her how awful a designer she is and how her boss is right to humiliate her. However, Hannah believes she's hallucinating and falls unconscious. A while later, she wakes up to find the creature in her room. Panicked, she quickly grabs it and puts it in the closet. She then tends to her wound and bandages her stomach. When she notices bloodstains on her clothes, she becomes oddly inspired and begins working on her next design. The following day, she shows Kristen her latest design, a beautiful white dress with bloodstains. To her surprise, he is genuinely impressed and for the first time, praises her. Later, Esther notices Hannah's wounds and becomes worried. She asks how it happened, but the latter lies and says it's just an allergy. After that, she goes to the clinic where the doctor tells her that she might have dual DNA chimera, an uncommon congenital condition where a person shares DNA with a fraternal twin. It means that Hannah absorbed her twin in the womb, which is why she has a birthmark. She asks if it's possible for the twin to come out, but the doctor assures her that it isn't. After leaving the clinic, Hannah texts Kalen several times, but receives no response. Frustrated, she goes to meet Esther at a bar, where the two end up drinking a lot. While they're talking, Hannah notices her boyfriend continually texting on Esther's phone. This obviously upsets her, but she decides not to say anything. Meanwhile at home, the creature in the closet starts moving and seems to be getting stronger when Hannah is upset. Later, when she arrives home, she discovers the creature has escaped from the closet and is much bigger than before. It then begins to mock Hannah once again and claims that Esther and Kalen are having an affair. The creature also tells her that she has no talent of her own and no one loves her. However, Hannah responds by knocking it out and taking it to the basement. While she's tying it, the creature tells her that she cannot get rid of it, no matter how hard she tries. The following day, Hannah gets a call from her mother who invites her to a party the following week. It's a farewell as she and her husband are moving to another city soon. As the two are talking, Hannah abruptly asks if she's ever had a twin, but Mom says no. Just then, Esther and Kalen arrive outside the door. They have come to invite Hannah for a picnic. However, seeing them together upsets her, so she refuses, claiming to be sick. Later, she searches the internet for information on dual DNA chimera and discovers a support group for people just like her. The following day, she attends one of their meetings where some people share their similar experiences. They all have twin creatures, which they call their appendage. According to the group's leader, Fred, the appendage is like a parasite that finds and feeds on its victims, making them weak and vulnerable. Unfortunately, trying to kill the twin will also result in the host's death. So the only thing they can do is numb the appendage and hide it. However, the host will also experience certain side effects of the drugs. Hannah suggests that they all go to the hospital and talk with the doctors, but Fred strictly warns against it. He tells her about one of their friends who did so and is now detained in the hospital and subjected to inhumane experiments. As Hannah exits the meeting, a group member, Claudia, approaches her and the two instantly vibe. After a little while, they head to the latter's house for coffee. During their chat, Claudia's imprisoned appendage begins making loud noises. When Hannah asks why she hasn't sedated it, she replies that sometimes it feels awful and inhumane to drug her appendage like this. After this, Hannah goes back to her house and visits her appendage. It tells her that it can help and protect her, but she sedates it, and the side effects soon take a toll on her. Sometime later, while she's working on her designs, Kalen comes to see her. When he notices Hannah behaving strangely, he asks her what's wrong. She proceeds to tell him about her appendage and everything she's been going through. But unfortunately, he doesn't believe her and instead says that she should get her mental health checked. Hearing this, an angry Hannah shouts at him to leave. The following morning at work, Hannah is rude to Esther as well and even tells her not to bother her anymore. Hannah is slowly starting to lose her sanity. That evening, she visits Claudia and the two drink together. During their talk, Hannah admits to having a drinking problem and talks about her teenage years, when she intentionally got into a car accident in an attempt to end her own life. She says she's a broken person who can't find her way back. Claudia comforts her and encourages her to have positive feelings about herself. She further says that Hannah should listen to her appendage sometimes because it is prophetic. She reveals that she discovered her husband's affair through her appendage, and it helped her move on. She also warns Hannah not to allow the creature to hypnotize her, and that she should not share this with the people from their support group. Following this, Hannah takes Claudia's advice and returns home to listen to her appendage. It asks her to come closer and informs her that Esther and Kalen are not dating yet, but are in love. It also hypnotizes her and tells her that no one will ever love a messed up person like her. Hannah tries to sedate the appendage, but the syringe turns out to be empty. Taking advantage of this opportunity, it completely takes over her body, rendering her unconscious. The next morning, Hannah wakes up to find her appendage missing. Just then, her mother calls to remind her about the farewell party and asks her to pick up some food for the guests. After taking the order, she goes to her parents' house for the party. But just as the festivities are about to begin, she becomes sick and ends up vomiting all over the food. Her mother, instead of offering support, starts shouting at her. She claims that having a daughter like her has ruined her life. Hannah tries to explain the situation, but Mom doesn't give a flip. As a result, she storms out of the house. On her way home, Hannah calls Claudia and reveals that her appendage has gone missing, but the latter tells her not to worry. When she gets home, she becomes weak and collapses on the bed. Moments later, her appendage, which has grown into a full person, arrives and begins to hypnotize her while talking negative things about her. It then sticks out a long tongue and begins feeding on her. After a while, Claudia arrives and greets her with a smile. This reveals that she is in fact an evil bitch. In the next scene, Hannah regains consciousness in a terrible state and discovers that her appendage has taken over her appearance. To her surprise, she discovers that Claudia is also an appendage who has locked her host in the house. She was the one who orchestrated the whole thing and even emptied Hannah's syringe. Following this, the two appendages confine her in the basement. Claudia informs the appendage that they must keep Hannah alive because they're linked. For now. Later, the appendage Hannah sends an apologetic text to her friends. Kalen is relieved that she's back, but Esther thinks something is strange that she's apologizing out of the blue. So that evening, she goes to her house to check on her. She meets the appendages Hannah and Claudia, who behave very weirdly. Esther tries to enter the house, but they won't allow her and ask her to leave. The following day, appendage Hannah showcases a new design to Christian, which impresses him very much. Meanwhile, Esther observes the interaction and senses that something is amiss. Upon closer inspection, she notices the absence of the matching tattoo on Hannah, which shocks her. This is enough evidence to conclude that the person is not her best friend. After work, appendage Hannah and Claudia attend their group meeting. Shockingly, we learn that everyone here is an appendage. Fred then reveals that preying on another person severs the connection with their current host, allowing the creatures to successfully replace them. Following this, he shows the group a demonstration by feeding on an innocent man. In the meantime, Esther reaches Hannah's house and goes straight to the basement. There, she sees her best friend tied up and in a miserable state. She suggests calling the cops, but Hannah doesn't let her, so she just takes her to the hospital. Upon regaining consciousness, she shares everything with her friend. She apologizes to Esther for her recent behavior, and the two tearfully hug each other. That night, appendage Hannah wears a seductive dress and visits Kalen. He notices that she's very different and points out that her birthmark has faded. However, she tells him that it's because of a new cream and proceeds to seduce him. After they get intimate, he goes to take a shower and appendage Hannah discovers that one of her teeth is broken. This makes her freak out, so she calls Claudia for answers. The latter promptly goes to the basement and discovers that Hannah is gone. This is the reason why the appendage is becoming weak. Claudia then tells her that she must find a new host. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the girls try to contact Kalen but are unsuccessful, so they decide to go to his place. Meanwhile, the appendage Hannah attacks his body and starts feeding on him. When the girls arrive, Claudia tries to intervene, but they quickly sedate her. They then head to the room where the appendage is feeding on Kalen. Hannah is terrified by the sight, so she wastes no time and immediately cuts its tongue. She then climbs over the appendage and says that she will no longer allow her to manipulate her. After this, she kisses it on the lips, causing it to go back to its original form. In the final scene, Hannah and Esther free the real Claudia, who has been confined for many years. This causes the appendage to weaken and eventually revert back to its original form. The following day, Hannah takes a bold step by leaving her job under Christiane to launch her own fashion line with Esther. She also opens up to her parents and admits she feels invisible in their eyes, which is not okay. The movie ends as Hannah heads to the attic where the appendage is still tied up and where she cares for it like a child.